You're about to hear a story that sounds like conspiracy, except it's happening in public with press releases, investor decks, and product pages. Because while everyone is arguing about AI chatbots writing emails, another kind of AI is quietly being built to do something far more dangerous, to make reality searchable. Not the internet, not documents, reality. Every security camera, every warehouse feed, every broadcast archive, every training video, every internal Zoom call that nobody wants to rewatch, every nothing happened moment that later becomes a lawsuit, a scandal, or a headline. And here's the twist. Companies have been recording all of this for years. They just haven't been watching it. They've been storing it. Like a hoarder storing boxes in a basement, except the boxes are video and the basement is a cloud bill. This is what the industry calls dark data. Information an organization collects but doesn't really use. It's not organized, not analyzed, not interrogated. It just sits. And even when it sits there untouched, it still creates risk, security risk, compliance risk, the risk of storing sensitive information you forgot you even had. Now take that concept and apply it to video. Because video is the most honest kind of data a company has. Not because it never lies, video can be edited, framed, misinterpreted, but because it captures what people actually do. And that is why video has always been powerful, and why, historically, it was also safe. Safe because it was too expensive to process, too boring to review, too massive to manage. A camera could watch a store for 24 hours, but unless something obvious happened, nobody would ever look. So companies built entire cultures around a comfortable assumption. If nobody sees it, it doesn't exist. But that assumption is breaking. And the reason it's breaking is not just AI. It's a very specific kind of AI, video intelligence that can track context across time. In February 2026, TechCrunch published a story about a new startup founded by two former Google Japan leaders, Aza Kai, the CEO, and Hiraku Yanagida, the COO. They spent nearly a decade working together at Google Japan, and they decided to build infrastructure that converts massive amounts of unviewed video into structured, queryable business data. The company is called Infinimind, and the key word there is not AI, it's infrastructure. Because the problem isn't that companies lack a model that can recognize a person in a frame. We've had object detection for years. The problem is that enterprise video is a swamp. A petabyte archive isn't just a lot of files, it's decades of inconsistent formats, different camera angles, missing metadata, noisy audio, multiple languages, multiple contexts, and endless edge cases. It's not one video, it's a living organism. And if you've ever worked inside a real company, you already know this truth. The most valuable information is rarely in a clean database. It's in the mess. It's in the footage nobody wants to tag. It's in the recordings nobody wants to transcribe. It's in the long, boring hours where the only way to find the moment that matters is to already know where it is. Infinimind's pitch is simple and almost unsettling. Turn video into something you can query like a database. Their site uses language that should make you pause. They claim video is dark data. They frame the world like this. Video dominates, yet most of it remains invisible to analytics. And their solution is to build what they call an intelligence layer, something that can transform footage into structured data tables that plug into business intelligence tools. From pixels to SQL. Let's translate that. They're not just saying, we can find faces, or we can detect objects. They're saying, stop storing video, start querying it. Because once you can query video, the questions change. Today, most companies can ask, how many units did we sell? But they can't ask, show me every moment a customer looked confused right before they left without buying. They can't ask, show me all incidents where a worker violated safety procedure even for 2 seconds. They can't ask, show me the exact moment our competitor's product appeared on screen during prime time and correlate that with sales. And if you think these questions are far-fetched, look at what Infinimind's first product did. According to TechCrunch, their first product, TV Pulse, launched in Japan in April 2025. It analyzes television content in real time, aiming to help media and retail companies track things like product exposure, brand presence, sentiment, and PR impact. TechCrunch reports that after pilots with broadcasters and agencies, it already has paying customers, including wholesalers and media companies. That's not science fiction. That's marketing measurement, except the measurement isn't based on surveys or self-reporting. It's based on what the camera saw. Now, here's where the story gets more interesting. The founders told TechCrunch that something changed between 2021 and 2023. Vision language models started moving beyond simple object tagging. The models became more capable at understanding context. They also pointed to falling GPU costs and steady performance improvements. In other words, the world crossed a line where video analysis stopped being a toy demo and started becoming operational. And once it's operational, it stops being optional. Because any company that figures out how to extract value from video at scale gets a strange advantage. They can see what others can't. Imagine two retailers. Retailer A runs on spreadsheets and gut instinct. They have cameras, but the cameras are basically there for security and insurance. Retailer B runs on searchable reality. They can ask for patterns in behavior. They can detect rare events. They can measure operational friction. They can quantify confusion and hesitation and moment of impact and near miss. Retailer B doesn't just get better reporting. They get a new kind of power, the power to audit the physical world. And that's why this feels conspiratorial. Because when you say it out loud, it sounds like the plot of a dystopian novel. The building is watching you. But here's the more honest version. The building has been watching you for a long time. The difference is that now it can remember, and it can answer questions. Infinimind's next product, according to TechCrunch, is called DeepFrame, a long-form video intelligence platform. It's scheduled for beta in March 2026 and a full launch in April 2026. And the detail TechCrunch included is revealing. It's meant to process 200 hours of footage to pinpoint specific scenes, speakers, or events. 200 hours. That's not a clip. That's an operational timeline. That's a week's worth of continuous context. That is exactly where human review collapses. Nobody is watching 200 hours of video to find 5 minutes of truth. So who funds a company like this? TechCrunch reports Infinimind raised $5.8 million in seed funding led by UTech, joined by CX2, Headline Asia, Chiba Dojo, and an AI researcher via A16Z Scout. And according to Infinimind's own site, they're plugged into the modern AI industrial complex. They mention being a member of AWS Activate, selected for an AWS Generative AI Accelerator, partnered with Google for Startups Cloud Program, and an NVIDIA Inception member. They also say they were selected for Japan's Generative AI Accelerator Challenge, receiving support for computational resources and development infrastructure from Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry. So this isn't a couple of founders tinkering in a garage. This is a startup being shaped inside the same ecosystem that built the modern cloud, the modern GPU stack, and the modern AI acceleration programs. Now let's talk about the conspiracy angle, carefully, without lying to you. Because the real conspiracy isn't a secret meeting in a dark room. The real conspiracy is that incentives quietly align. Think about it. If you're a cloud provider, you win when companies store more data and run more compute. If you're a GPU company, you win when AI workloads scale. If you're an enterprise software company, you win when you become the interface between raw reality and executive decision-making. And if you're a company with cameras, you win when your footage becomes actionable insights instead of a storage cost. Nobody has to coordinate. Nobody has to call it surveillance. It becomes optimization. It becomes compliance. It becomes safety. It becomes loss prevention. And it becomes something else, too. Insurance logic. Because the moment video becomes queryable, it can be used to price risk. Not in theory, in practice. If a system can flag patterns of unsafe behavior, it can influence how insurers assess your facility. If a system can show how often rules are broken, it can influence investigations. If a system can rewind and find the moment before an incident, it can determine negligence. And the most important part is this: video intelligence doesn't just find what you want, it can also find what you didn't ask for. That's the power of searching reality. When you can query video at scale, you can uncover unknown unknowns, the 0.1% of outliers, the near misses, the patterns nobody noticed. Infinimine's site even hints at this kind of promise. The model learns what normal looks like and flags outliers. It talks about detecting safety breaches, dwell time violations, stockouts the second they happen. Again, that sounds like dystopia, but in an industrial setting, it's also very easy to sell as common sense. And that is why this is the most important point in the whole story. The future won't arrive wearing a villain costume. It will arrive wearing a badge that says efficiency. Now, if you're an educated viewer, you're probably thinking the obvious question. What about privacy? What about governance? What about bias? What about misuse? And the honest answer is, the technology is moving faster than the social contracts around it. Dark data is already known to create risk because it's ungoverned. Even if you never analyze it, it can still contain sensitive information and become a liability. Now picture a company turning dark video into structured, searchable outputs. That's not just a technical change, that's a legal and ethical transformation. Because the more structured the data becomes, the easier it is to share, to copy, to sell, to leak, to subpoena, to weaponize. And the more valuable it becomes, the more pressure there is to keep it. You don't delete assets that produce insight. You hoard them. Which brings us to a strange paradox. Video intelligence is being sold as a way to unlock value from footage, but it may also be the thing that guarantees the footage is never allowed to die. And this is where you should zoom out and see the big picture. We're watching the birth of a new layer of the economy. For years, the internet was built on text, web pages, emails, documents, logs. Then it became image first, social feeds, thumbnails, product shots. Now it's video first. Short form, long form, live streams, surveillance, training, meetings. And in the next phase, the winners won't just be the companies that produce video, they'll be the companies that can interpret it at scale. In other words, the next power platform isn't a social network, it's a reality index, a search engine for time. And if you want to understand why former Google leaders would obsess over this, remember what Google was built to do. Not create information, organize it, make it searchable. Now that same impulse is moving from the internet into physical space in enterprise operations. And whether the company is Infinimind or someone else, this direction is inevitable. Because once one player can query their video archives, everyone else looks primitive. Once one broadcaster can quantify exposure and sentiment from real-time content, everyone else is guessing. Once one factory can detect near misses before accidents happen, everyone else is waiting for injuries. So here's the ending I want to leave you with. This story is not about a startup. It's about a threshold. The threshold where organizations stop being blind to their own behavior, where we didn't know stops being believable, where we couldn't see it stops being an excuse. Because in a world where video is searchable, the biggest change is not operational, it's psychological. People behave differently when they know the footage doesn't just exist, but can be questioned. And the wildest part is, we are building this with normal words. We are calling it analytics. We are calling it insight. We are calling it optimization. But strip away the branding, and what it really is memory, industrial memory. A system that can rewind the physical world and point to the moment the story began. So the next time you hear someone say, AI is just a tool, remember this: tools change what questions are possible. And when the question becomes, show me exactly what happened, Power moves to whoever controls the index. And that is why video intelligence isn't the next feature, it's the next layer. It's the moment reality becomes a database. And once that happens, nothing stays dark for long.